Good morning and welcome to Richard Raw's Daily Meditation from the Centre for Action and Contemplation. The theme for this week is Alternative Community, and the title of today's contribution, today being Monday the 1st of June 2020, is Community as Alternative Consciousness. And Richard writes, "The goal of the spiritual journey is to discover and move towards connectedness on ever new levels. We begin by making little connections with other people, with nature and animals, then grow into deeper connectedness with people. Finally, we can experience full connectedness as union with God. Remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Without connectedness and communion, we don't fully exist as our truest selves. Becoming who we really are is a matter of learning how to become more and more deeply connected. The spiritual experience is about trusting that when you stop holding yourself, inherent goodness will still uphold you. Many of us call that God, but you don't have to. It is the trusting that is important. When you fall into such primal love, you realize that everything is foundationally okay. Unfortunately, this confidence is often absent in our world, especially under conditions of great upheaval and suffering. Foundational love gives us hope and allows us to trust what is as the jumping point, no matter how unsteady it feels. It can allow us to work together towards what can be. The life, death, and resurrection of Jesus shows us what is fully possible. God will always bring yet more life and wholeness out of seeming chaos and death. In the words of Timothy Gorringe and Rosie Beckham, faith in the resurrection is the ground on which Christians hope for a different future, a transition to a society less destructive, more peaceful, and more whole. Living in this hope calls ecclesia, the assembly of Christians, to live as a contrast community to society. But building such contrast communities was precisely Paul's missionary strategy. You can see it throughout the New Testament. Paul believed that small communities of Jesus' followers would make the gospel message believable. Jesus is Lord, rather than Caesar is Lord, sharing abundance and living in simplicity, rather than hoarding wealth. Non-violence and chosen suffering, rather than aligning with power. Paul was very practical. He taught that our faith must take actual form in a living, loving group of people, otherwise love is just theory. Paul seems to think that corporate evil can only be confronted or overcome with corporate good. He knows that a love-transformed individual can do little against what he calls the powers and the principalities, or what some of us call the system. Our collective consciousness deems such institutions too big to fail. We are mostly oblivious to these forces because we take them as normative and in fact absolutely necessary. Cultural blind spots can only be overcome by a group of people affirming and supporting one another in an alternative consciousness. Thankfully, we're now seeing many people, religious and secular, from around the world coming together to form alternative systems for sharing resources, living simply, and imagining a sustainable future. It has been one of the spiritual gifts of the pandemic. God never misses a chance to help us grow up. Here ends the meditation. And can I encourage you to go onto the website for the Centre for Action and Contemplation and sign up for Richard Raw's Daily Meditation, which will be delivered into your email in tray every morning.